everybody, and welcome back to the Modern Maze. I hope that you are doing well and you're looking after yourselves. It's been a little while since we've spoken, so a little update from me. I am currently in an island called Kopangan, which I actually found out today means the island of shallow waters. And this is where I will be for around the next month or so. So I've just been spending my days being, honestly. It's been a journey so far. I think solo travel can be that way. So it's been all of the things. It's been relaxing, it's been restorative, it's been isolating, lonely, challenging, all the things. But I'm taking them in stride. Lots of learnings already, lots of time to think as well about the podcast, how I want to put myself out there to the world for the rest of the year. So I'm really, really interested in starting to volunteer. I think that I have been at a desk job, or I was at a desk job for, I think, 6 years straight. And yeah, I think it's time for me to use my body to help people, planet, however I can. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of learnings along the way. So I'm going to take you along with me. But today's episode is a continuation of our Positive Pathway series. And for those of you that are new to the channel or you didn't check out the first episode, this series is essentially a recognition that we need to, while talking about all of these big transformative changes and shining a light on the darkness that's going on in the world right now, equally, we want to shine a light on the amazing things that are going on and the amazing people that are just doing beautiful things and have beautiful intentions for each other and our planet. And so today's episode, we're going to talk about 3 positive news stories that I hope brings a sparkle to your day. Before we talk about that, though, I want to talk about gratitude today, and a question that I'm going to pose right at the start of this episode for you. And this is something that I've been thinking about the past couple of weeks is, do you think that more gratitude could change the world? Let's talk about it. First, what do we mean when we say gratitude? So, gratitude refers to either an inward feeling or an outward expression of your appreciation or thankfulness for someone or something. Now, it could be that you're really grateful for a loved one or a family member, or you could be grateful for feeling the morning sun on your skin. So gratitude is a pretty big foundation to our well-being and mental health. And it has proven scientific benefits and social benefits. So we're talking about things like an actual increase in your physical health, an increase in your cognitive function, improvement in your social bonds and your relationships, and so on and so on. And it's a big difference. It's a noticeable enough difference when we are feeling more gratitude and we are building an effective gratitude practice. Another reflection that I would ask from you is that when you are feeling a little bit more grateful in your life, how does your day look? Does it look any different? I know from my own personal experience that if I'm feeling a little bit more grateful, that the day seems to flow easier. So something not so great might happen, or, maybe my mood may change or my energy may change, but I find myself able to, maybe just handle the day a little bit better. So I'd be curious how gratitude manifests itself within your own daily life, and if there's any reflections you have about it. We, as a human species, have been practicing gratitude for, I don't know, how long, thousands upon thousands of years. If we think about any religion or spirituality practice in the world, we're often giving our thanks. This could be thanks to the universe. This could be thanks to each other, thanks to God. And so it's been an integral part of us is to celebrate and to give thanks. And it's something that we have done collectively for a long, long time. Let's talk about the science of gratitude a little bit. So a key resource that I use for this episode is Andrew Huberman's video. For those of you who don't know, he's a neuroscientist and professor that has a pretty big platform now on YouTube and Spotify and everything. So he makes podcasts and has a video element to them, which is great. And he has an episode on the science of gratitude and how to build a gratitude practice. And I would highly recommend anyone checking it out if you're interested in this topic. I'm going to briefly touch on the science a little bit, but yeah, for all of the details, please check out the video. It's a pretty fascinating watch. And I'm biased though, because I do love me some Huberman. I'm going to quote him. So if you are of the mindset that a gratitude practice is kind of weak sauce, buckle up, because the data actually points to the fact that a gratitude practice is a very, very potent way in which you can steer your mental and physical health in positive directions, and that those effects are very long-term. Consistent gratitude practices are a powerful, powerful tool towards our well-being, and the science backs this up. Interestingly, I don't know how you feel about this, but Andrew Huberman talks about this. I think it was Sigmund Freud was the first person to really bring this up, is that it appears to be that our default mode is to be in our defenses, to be worrying about the future, looking over our shoulder, because that's what kept us safe. That's what kept us going as a species. And the fact is that most of us need to put work into a gratitude practice, that it's not something that always flows or something that is conscious. It's something that we often need to work at. And I can really, really relate to this. For me, the default does seem to be that fear part of the brain, the anxiety part of the brain. And I really had to consciously build up my gratitude practice over the years to a point where I am grateful that I did take those steps and build a practice in. So these gratitude practices and performing them consistently have the ability to permanently shift our mindset and the way that the neurons fire in our brains so that we feel happier on average, even when we're not performing these practices. A key word here is average. So a gratitude practice does not mean that you will never feel sad again or that you will never feel ungrateful again. Life and our existence is all about duality, the light and the dark, sun and the shadow. And we need to just be cognizant of the fact that we shouldn't be gaslighting ourselves into thinking that this is just going to make us feel happy all the time. While we're talking about this, just a point that I also want to raise is that if you are not feeling grateful about anything, then that is completely understandable and it's okay. There are millions upon millions of people in the world who do not have the privilege of having something to be grateful for. like they're fighting for their lives. Every day is a struggle, and they're going through some of the most difficult periods in their lives, and um, suffering. And so this isn't to say that you need to feel grateful. If you're not feeling grateful, then there's truth in that. And there's no need to hide from that truth. It's okay to feel it. The main neuromodulator, which is serotonin, that's the one that is associated with gratitude. And there's two specific parts of your brain that get lit up when you are feeling grateful and you are in a gratitude practice. But again, for more information, please check out Andrew Huberman's podcast on it. So gratitude has the ability to make us feel happier on average. It can also have the ability of helping us prosper a little bit more during a really, really tough time. Gratitudes flow easy for me when life is going good. Maybe not perfect. Maybe there's a little few things going on that are not so great, and I find it easier to then be grateful for the things that I'm grateful for. But generally, when life is going well, it's easier for me to feel grateful. And I know personally that that's when I'm most consistent with my practices. But can gratitude give us a tool to deal with turbulent times? And it turns out it can. There's a few ways that this manifests itself. Firstly, that those who really can cultivate gratitude and feel it, it's about embodying gratitude. They can have a ability to reinterpret what's going on. So we learn to reframe our difficulties. We can recognize the areas or opportunities for growth or transformation, even in what may seem like such a trying time. It allows us to be a bit more resilient by helping us find meaning in this adversity. And that can help nurture a deeper sense of well-being and purpose. It can also deepen our connection to others. I know that when I would do my gratitude practice, I never had a set thing that I would talk about, or, I need to talk about XXX. It would just be, what am I grateful for? And there would always be, at least one of them would always be about a person or a group of people or my family. And what would that do for your relationships? For me, it was, I was feeling grateful about them, and that would foster a deeper connection with them. I would want to see them more, talk to them more, really feel what they mean to me and everything that they bring me. And building these social connections and bonds, that's important when we're going through these tough times. Who are we reaching out to? Who's there for us? Who's supporting us? These deep, deep connections, those are the ones that can hold us up in trying times. Last one I want to touch on is that it can lift our emotions. So a consistent gratitude practice, like we talked about, can lift your emotions just a little bit. And that can maybe just bring the tiniest amount of joy into your life when you need it most. I want to talk about my personal experience with gratitude and a gratitude practice. So during COVID, for those of you who know, Melbourne had the longest lockdowns in the world, I believe. Well, second longest, one of them. And during this time is when I began to have a gratitude practice. So every morning I would wake up and I would write 5 things that I was grateful for. Some days it flowed, some days it didn't. I wasn't perfect with it. There would be weeks, days where I forgot to do it, and then I'd come back to it. It really, really helped me during that time because It was just tough being in lockdown. It was a really tough time for me personally, for the community, for the world. And so having that list of 5 things really did bring some joy into my day. Then lockdowns ended, COVID, faded into the background, at least in my bubble, in my circle, and my gratitude practice slipped away from me. I found myself going to it less and less. I would still do it every now and then, and I still do. Consciously write down a list of 5 things that I'm grateful for, but the practice had faded away. Now we fast forward to 2024, which for me personally, the first 6 months was some of the most challenging times I've ever faced. I was getting hit from every angle, physically, mentally, energetically, socially, and I was really crumbling, really going through it. I didn't feel grateful during this time. When I think about those days, how I acted, I felt just negative. I didn't feel like myself. I wasn't showing up for people. I wasn't showing up for myself. I couldn't recognize myself. And ever since I quit work and have been overseas, I have had the space, the absolute luxury and the privilege of having the space, time to reflect and to de stress, come back to myself. What came to me and what I realize now is that gratitude was actually with me the whole time. I just couldn't see it. Despite what sort of day I was having, and I would have weeks of just a terrible mood, or just weekends where I couldn't get myself out of bed, couldn't do anything without breaking a sweat, an actual physical fever. I didn't realize it, but I was still showing gratitude, but in different ways this time. It wasn't that I was writing down lists. I did some every now and then, but the way that it embedded itself into me is that gratitude actually became a part of me and continues to be a part of me. And I distinctly remember a lot of moments where rather than sitting down at the start of a day and being listing 5 things I'm grateful for, and then move on, there were moments during my day and my life where I was feeling utter gratitude throughout my entire being. A really delicious meal kept me going during these times. And I remember quite a few incredible meals that I was feeling with every part of my being. And I remember feeling so grateful for food and everything that it gives us. I also remember going on a lot more walks than I had in the past and being incredibly grateful for my 2 feet supporting the weight of me and allowing me to interact with the earth. I felt myself being more grateful for Mother Earth herself, all of the trees that I would walk past, all of the ducks that I would see, all of it. But I wasn't consciously picking up on this. It felt like I was really ungrateful. It felt like there was nothing that I could be grateful for at that time. But my gratitude practice had just, it's become a part of me. I think that's the real power of a gratitude practice, is that, and Andrew Huberman actually talks about it, is that it's not a practice where you have to do it consistently for every day. It's like meditation. Although, with meditation, you're just trying to bring presence into your life. And so you can practice meditation out of an actual meditation session. But with gratitude, it helps, and you need to be consistent at the start of it. but then you can actually taper off. And it actually does not need to be a practice that has to be performed every day for the rest of your life. It's almost like having these words down on a paper and going through the process of consciously speaking about gratitudes, that energy, that state that your body gets into, it carries with you throughout the rest of your day and your life. And it's something that you learn. It's something that as you begin to feel more deeper gratitudes, it's something that you can access during a day, something that hopefully you can access during a time where you need it most. And that's what happened with me. I didn't realize it. I would never have guessed it while I was in that state. But now that I'm out of it, I can absolutely see that. Gratitude helped me. Gratitude was there for me. And it may not have cracked a big old smile on my face for a week or helped me get out of bed or, had a huge change, but it helped. There's a little shift somewhere, and those little bits, they all matter. Every little bit counts. Can be for anything. We're talking about an individual. We're talking about a collection. We're talking about the earth. Every little bit counts. And so if you do not have a gratitude practice or you've thought about one for a long time, I would really recommend just giving it a shot. Now, let's return back to the question that I posed at the start of this episode, which is, could gratitude change the world? If we revisit the concept of the modern maze as I had initially thought of it, you have the human species as a little player character, and you have a maze, which is our modern maze, and you have the exit, which right now I'm using the donut economics vision for humanity and our planet, which is a safe and just place for all while living in the ecological limits of the planet. And so if we think about our player character going through the maze, so we've talked about some of the barriers and distractions and illusions that are stopping us from getting to our end point. The way that I think about gratitude and a global increase in gratitude would be like giving us a little speed boost and a little bit of armor on our player character as we move throughout the maze. Again, could be the tiniest amount, but every amount counts. If anyone's ever played the Mario games, you think of the superstar, and it gives you a little bit of invincibility and speed temporarily. I think of gratitude as being almost a superstar. It's a permanent effect, and it can allow us to collectively and individually move through our challenges with a little bit more ease and resilience. The thing about change and the thing about transformative change is that it happens in subtle shifts. You may not consciously notice it, but it doesn't diminish its impacts. Now, as we strive to transform our society and planet during these challenging times, our focus, this podcast focus, has naturally been on the big ticket items, talking about economic structures, global leadership, and systemic change. What I believe is that equally, we need to turn our attention inwards to ourselves, to our family, to our community, and our loved ones. It is within these seemingly small acts of personal and communal care where true cultural transformation lies. If I feel grateful for things in my life and I feel grateful for my community, and just jumping back to the science again, it turns out that scientifically speaking, it might be that the best way to get the effects of gratitude is to receive it from somebody. So think about that. If you're giving gratitude to yourself and you're lifting yourself up and you're giving gratitude genuinely to your community and your loved ones and lifting them up, why couldn't that change the world? What sort of ripple effects could we see around the world? How would we look at our greatest challenges if everybody that can, brought gratitude into their community and within themselves? How would we look at each other? Does your relationship with Mother Earth change if you're giving your thanks to a big tree that's providing you shade on a sunny day? How does that change how you treat that tree, how you think of that tree, how you talk about that tree? Like a wave that's gathering strength, gratitude has the power to spread its warm light across the world. By fostering a greater appreciation for ourselves, the things that we have, and those that are close to us, we can brighten up our communities and our inner worlds. And that's enough. We need to do all of the big stuff, all of the big things as well. But it's enough to just focus on yourself and your loved ones. It's enough to just lift your community. When you're giving thanks to yourself, your life, others, feel it. Feel it in your body. Sip it slowly. When you deeply think about something that makes you feel gratitude, how does it feel in your body? How does it feel in your heart? Deeply think about all of the things that your community gives you. Give thanks. Hug deeply. Look into their eyes. Feel the connection. Be vulnerable. Let your heart shine through. Show others how much they mean to you. And ask yourselves, if gratitude was allowed to flow through the world like a gentle creek, why couldn't that change the world? What does an effective gratitude practice look like? Scientifically speaking, it turns out that giving thanks and receiving thanks seems to be some of the most powerful ways that we can feel those effects. But I think we don't need to complicate this. Sometimes with science, I find that we're always looking for the most optimal way to do things. And I'm thinking about even the wellness community has a little bit of these elements. And sometimes it's enough to just do the thing and to do the bare minimum of the thing. For me, I didn't do the most consistent practice, the most amazing practice. But as I shared with you in that story before, gratitude manifested itself in my life massively. So check out Andrew Huberman's video for more details about if you're really interested in optimizing your practice. I think a good place to start is just a list, a morning list, an evening list. Whenever you have a moment to reflect. It could be 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for. There's plenty of prompts online if you're interested in looking this up, but things that you're grateful for in your day, things that you were grateful for yesterday, and build it from there. The most important thing about these practices is that it's one that's repeatable. So find something that works for you that you can adhere to more often than not and stick with it. See where it goes. An important one is giving that thanks to people. And that's something that I want to bring more of into my life, is giving genuine appreciation, which is hard sometimes and difficult to voice. Something that I want to bring more into my gratitude practices and in my life in general is giving genuine thanks to coworkers, my friends, my loved ones, my family. I think that's an important part of these practices as we look to build them in our lives, giving genuine thanks. So try and spread that positive feeling wherever you are and wherever you may be. It's hard sometimes. Don't force it. The importance with this practice particularly is that it needs to be genuine. So if you're genuinely feeling it, voice it, either to yourself or to others. And who doesn't love giving thanks? It feels nice sometimes to give genuine appreciation to people, and you can see the smile on their face and they just light up. Let's jump into our 3 positive news stories for the day. Number 1, for the first time, wind and solar produce more energy than coal in America from Jan to July this year. The US is the second highest emissions emitter in the world. China is the first one by a significant amount, and India's third. These top 3 emitters contribute approximately 15 times the amount of greenhouse gases that the bottom 100 produce. So the top 3 produce around 40% of emissions. And in fact, the top 10 emitters account for around 2/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions. So that means that in order to fight this part of climate change, and specifically emissions, that we need significant action from these countries. So from January to July this year, wind and solar energy in America generated more electricity than power from coal. And in fact, in 2023, renewables did outpace coal energy for the first 5 months, but then by summer, it was one of the hottest summers ever in the Northern Hemisphere, I think in 2,000 years. And so energy demand increased as a result of that. And there's a hope that these renewable energy sources are going to continue outpacing coal for the rest of the year. The focus on renewables has also helped grid resilience amid extreme weather, which I think is really important for us going forward. So much about climate change action is also, we're talking about climate change mitigation, which is mitigating climate change and reducing our impact on climate change, but it's also about climate change adaptation, because climate change is here and it's happening and it's going to continue happening for a little while. And I'm sorry that I included that in our positive news story, but that's the reality of it. And so this is important, that renewables enabled Texas specifically to have grid resilience during a really turbulent, extreme weather time. In Europe as well, wind and solar have overtaken fossil fuels in 13 EU member states. Together, they make up 70% of the EU's total electricity demand. And just 5 years ago, it was 4 countries that generated more electricity from wind and solar than fossil fuels. So we've gone from 4 countries 5 years ago to now 13, where wind and solar have overtaken fossil fuels. Good stuff, everybody. Pretty incredible. I have to say, I didn't think that renewables would reach this state so fast, I should say. I know that we have a long way of going, and yeah, we do have a long way, but these are good steps. Our second story is that deforestation in Colombia fell to a historic low in 2023. A third of the Amazon is in Colombia, and the Amazon is an incredibly important place in Earth to preserve and to nourish. And it affects weather patterns across the world. It is the home for God knows how many animals. And it's also a crucial carbon sink, which means that it actually helps us sequester and take carbon from the air. It's a huge place where carbon goes. So deforestation in Colombia dropped by 36% in 2023. It's pretty good. And the president, Gustavo Petro, when he was elected in 2022, he promised to stop the record high rates of deforestation by limiting agribusiness expansion into the forest. And he also helped create reserves where indigenous communities and others were allowed to harvest rubber, acai, and other non-timber forest products. Unfortunately, it looks like next year's figures don't look as promising, which would be this year. And that is because there was a lot of dry weather due to El Nino, and that helped cause a little bit of deforestation. I say a little bit, but it's a lot. But that's okay. This is still a positive news story. This is still great. A lot of trees saved in 2023, and it looks like a good start. It's a good start, so let's continue with that trend. Our third story is that the Iberian lynx is no longer on the brink of extinction. Now, I don't know if you've seen a photo of this kitty, but it is a gorgeous looking creature. And its population has more than tripled in 2 years, thanks to conservation efforts. And I would recommend looking up a photo if you haven't seen an Iberian lynx. Yeah, it's a cool looking cat. So this medium-sized cat, which is commonly found in the southwest part of Europe, had seen its population decline massively because of overhunting, poaching, and a loss of habitats. Their main prey, which was the European rabbit, became scarce because it was a pest for agriculture, so they just started wiping them out. The species has now been listed as vulnerable from endangered. So, it's pretty good. And the population increased from 52 mature individuals in 2001 to around 20,000 today. Pretty big jump. And the way that they did this was to focus on increasing the abundance of its prey, protecting and restoring its habitat, which is a Mediterranean scrub and forest, and reducing the deaths caused by human activity. So those are our news stories for the day. I hope that they've brought a little sparkle and joy into your day. And that's it from me today. I hope that our talk about gratitude and gratefulness has maybe inspired you a little bit to start your own gratitude practice. If you have a journey with it or any tips, tricks, please feel free to share them with me on Instagram at The Modern Maze, just one word. Would love to know what your practices have looked like. I'm always looking to understand how to deepen mine and how to continue to build my practice as well. But I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day. Stay safe, look after yourselves, look after your loved ones, tell them how grateful you are for them. I'm grateful to you for dropping in and listening in. And I will speak to you next time. Namaste.